Well, hello everyone. I noticed there's quite a lot of discussion going on out in front of the Obozod as I was coming in. Would anyone like to share what the topics of conversation were?
Can I ask a question?
Maybe we want to tackle this first. No? Oh, okay. All right. So, Luang Por asked me to do a review, similar to yesterday's format, do a review of the lectures in the intervening time period, and then do some Q&A. And I didn't bring my watch, so I wonder if someone's got a timepiece handy, if they could let me know when we get to about 4:40. That'd be nice. Okay, thank you. All right, so Luang Por was talking today about the nivarana, or the five hindrances, which are a key topic when it comes to meditation. The five hindrances, as the Buddha said in the suttas, that hinder concentration and weaken wisdom. The five categories of defilements, numbering 7 in total. The sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and doubt. And I think now that we're about halfway through the retreat, we definitely have had a full contact with the hindrances. It's quite normal in a retreat. And even if you might have trouble naming each of the 7 in the list, you definitely become very acquainted with them quickly as you sit down and try to meditate, and probably have had the experience of how they hinder concentration and weaken wisdom. And something that these things we really besiege by them throughout our lives, in our daily activities, minute by minute and hour by hour. And it's oftentimes when they erupt into actions of body and speech that we really notice them most fully and notice the harm in them. But also we do notice the suffering internally from these kinds of defilements. But when we sit down and try to focus on something like the breath, or do our walking meditation and pay attention to our footsteps, then they become very, very noticeable. Just how powerful they are within the mind, and how constantly it seems that the mind is besieged by one or more of these. And then we have quite a bit of difficulty focusing on the breath at times. But this is where the real work of meditation is recognizing the hindrances and overcoming them. Because really, until you do that, they're just always going to be coming at you. They're always going to be causing problems for you. And one of the most important things to do right off as you're meditating, or whenever you're trying to develop concentration, is to notice the hindrances, to recognize them for what they are, when they alter our thinking and hinder us from paying attention to what we set out to pay attention to. And it's a battle for meditators all along the path, all the way to attaining enlightenment. There's a story in the suttas about the Venerable Anuruddha approaching Venerable Sariputta Thera. So these were both very prestigious direct disciples of the Buddha amongst his 80 most accomplished Arhat disciples. But before attaining enlightenment, Venerable Anuruddha approached Venerable Sariputta and was telling him about problems he was having in his meditation and his frustration that he hadn't attained enlightenment yet. And all Venerable Sariputta had to do was point out to him that each of his thoughts about his meditation was actually a hindrance, was actually an aspect of a hindrance that he just hadn't recognized as such. So, for example, Anuruddha is asking about, I've been practicing and practicing, but I still haven't attained. And this is just one of the examples from this conversation. And Venerable Sariputta says this represents your impatience. In other words, your restlessness. And something that Venerable Anuruddha apparently understood as being his aspiration, although it isn't stated explicitly. And so as we're meditating, different thoughts and ideas come into our head, and different emotions, they often fool us into thinking that they're important and that we should think in line with them, and we should act on them. When in fact, from a meditative point of view, what we want to do is recognize them as being a distraction from what it is we're trying to do. Remember, with our mindfulness, what is it that we came here to do? Recognize that these various thought patterns are distractions. And that actually, if we're simply mindfully aware of them, that they'll change and they'll pass away. And if we're mindful, the head will be clear, the heart will be clear, and we'll realize, we'll see the kinds of thought patterns that arose in a much different light. We'll see them much more clearly for what they are. That oftentimes they have storylines, that are not really true. They want us to do things that aren't really in our best interest. Sometimes can be quite detrimental to us, and keep us away from doing what really is helpful to us. So, for example, we might start worrying about a loved one. It's one of the hindrances. This can happen when we're here in the temple and we're not seeing the people close to us in our lives while we're here, relatively secluded. The mind might start thinking of all kinds of things. Well, I wonder if so-and-so is having such and such a problem. And if we think in line with this, well, if they are having such and such a problem, and I'm not there to help them, and if I'm not there to help them when they're having such and such a problem, maybe that makes me a bad person. And it goes on and on and on until, you see, sometimes meditators are in the car driving away. And before they get home and check in on so-and-so, they're perfectly fine. They come back to the retreat and say, "Can I please come back in? I made a mistake." Feeling kind of silly. We might come into the temple and be surrounded here by very like-minded people. And we suddenly may have an opportunity to meet and chat with and get to know a number of people that we might not normally come in contact with out in the outside world, with very similar interests, and this could be very tempting to do that kind of thing. And while there are lots of opportunities to meet up with meditators and talk with other meditators, even at the temple, this is quite a distraction when we're on retreat. And if you meditate for a little while and start developing some mindfulness, the mind gets calm, things seem a little bit more clear. Within just one short conversation, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and it's all gone. You threw it all away. And it's a very common experience and a learning experience. We really have to be careful about these kinds of interests and desires and urges. Amongst the meditation monks in Thailand, it's considered foundational. I was talking a little bit yesterday about not talking. Foundational, that you can't talk if you're really trying to meditate, if you really want to get anywhere. If you start talking, that's it, you're throwing away your meditation. For example, at Ajahn Chah's monastery, and I'm sure at others, some of the meditators would undertake a solemn vow not to speak a word for months, for example, for the entire wasa, unless something really truly had to be said. There's always a little bit of a caveat there. In an emergency. In some, to try to fulfill this vow, they would, as an aid, they would even do things like carry water around in their mouths. So they would take a large sip of water into their mouths and carry it around in their mouth whenever they were anywhere near other people. So that if they were going to speak, they'd have to spit out this water and say something. And then they have to put more water in their mouth. So it was this process, and so it helped them be mindful not to talk. They'd only talk if they really, really had to, because they had this reminder about their vow. And so once the mind starts to settle down and grow calmer, then we tend to avoid. We want to stay away from talking and listening to things. So the radio or what have you. Some of you may have the radio on your phones, for example, or something like this. Another challenge when we come into the temple is the sensual desire for various sights and sounds and so on. In a very secluded environment like this, it can seem like there isn't much enticing in the environment. There isn't as much stimulation as we might be used to. And it's a natural tendency of the heart. It isn't enlightened yet. That hasn't reached the stage of anagami, actually, specific to initiate sensual desire, to want to see beautiful things, to hear beautiful sounds, and so on like this. And it's only through applying our mindfulness that we suppress this. Otherwise, it will just keep coming up. The phones are a real problem in this regard. Modern smartphones, with the access to the internet, not just beautiful sights and sounds, but also ideas, another form of sensual pleasure. Catching up on the news, looking at Facebook, etc., etc. And as everyone knows, they're so quick and easy to use, and so some temples, meditation centers, they confiscate your smartphone as soon as you step on the premises. and you notice the difference when the people staying in the monastery or the temple don't have their smartphones. They do a lot better. If you don't, then come in for the meditation sit, and the morning, the afternoon, or the evening, they're falling asleep sometimes. Sit down, close their eyes. And why is that? Is it the hard physical labor in the monastery? Probably not. Nice. Up late at night, scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Right? Come from the meditation period, you fall asleep. So, where if they don't confiscate your phone, some meditators will lock them in their cars or something like that. Lock the phone away in your car, hide your keys in a very inconvenient place in your room or somewhere else in the temple altogether. I have seen in one meditation center, I did see some lights go on in cars late at night in the parking lot. That's how bad it can be sometimes. So, but if you, one of the things about all the hindrances is that, as one Ajahn said, they're really paper tigers. They seem big and powerful. And sometimes we may feel that we really just have to do what they want us to do. But in fact, they're really just made of paper. According to this metaphor, they're paper tigers. They're not real tigers. And if you put your mind to it, that you're going to succeed by trying to overcome these hindrances, then you will succeed. It's one of the doctrines of the meditation monks in Thailand that as long as you keep trying, and don't stop, then you have to succeed at your spiritual aspiration. You cannot fail. One used the metaphor of your effort and your perseverance are like a cord that connect you to your spiritual aspiration. They will inevitably draw you there. And I suppose that the reason for this is the karma of right effort, the kamma, the good karma, the merit of right effort. As long as you keep trying, then you will definitely succeed. And so meditators sometimes will sit, make a determination. I'm going to sit here for 45 minutes. I'm going to sit here for an hour. And no matter how badly I want to move, I'm not going to move. I'm not going to move a single muscle. No matter how sleepy I feel, no matter how much I nod, I'm still going to pull myself up. And I'm still going to remain sitting here for the full meditation period that I determined. Even if I have to have my eyes open, whatever it may be, and I'm going to keep trying. And and you can work through the permutations of the other hindrances. But it's that determination and that effort really plays a big role in all of this, and it develops your spiritual perfections, your parami of perseverance, your parami of patience, patient endurance, develops your determination parami, your adhitthana parami, the various spiritual virtues, the raw material for your spiritual life, in turn make your heart stronger. And just as the Buddha developed these parami over countless lifetimes to become a sambuddha. And we're very fortunate that when the Buddha attained enlightenment, he then taught us what is right view, what is right intention, all the way up through right effort to right concentration. There's effort and then there's right effort. There's wisdom and then there's right understanding. And the meaning of this is that while he had to go through a tremendous number of rebirths to find the right way, once he did, he was able to tell us exactly what to do to attain enlightenment, so that we didn't have to go through a lot of rebirths to get there, as long as we tried. And so when we're meditating, Here we're practicing breath meditation. It's the primary form of meditation. And if we can pay attention and be alert to when the mind is distracted, and then recognize this is a distraction and know that this is just something that's arising and it's changing and it's going to pass away. And it's not what we're really interested in right now. It's not really what we're here for. And remember that we're here to walk, the path of the Buddha, the path that leads inward. And we walk that path by paying attention to the breath. And if we can let go of the hindrance in this way, then return our attention to our breathing. And we do this over and over again. It may take many tries, usually does. But as we do it, the mind it gathers together slowly. It gathers together and it settles down. And so over time, we experience more and more success and more pleasure in the meditation. If we find the distractions seem pretty persistent, over a period of time, it's hard to let go of the distractions and just come back to the breath. Because this can happen too. Then we can try to simply be with the distraction as an objective onlooker, trying to initiate our faculty of mindfulness, our mindful awareness with it. You might use the metaphor of sitting with a friend who is experiencing some emotions. So if a friend of ours is angry, or if a friend of ours is very desirous for something that they can't have, say a friend is trying to quit smoking and they really want a cigarette. Or if a friend is trying to quit drinking and they really want to drink. And we have a longer list of abstentions here, of course, when you're following the 8 precepts. It's the same idea. So you can understand it in these kinds of terms. Or if a friend is worrying or in doubt, or is very restless, but really they need to stay still, you can sit with them and still allow them to be who they are, and allow yourself to remain who you are, while you sit with them as they're going through these emotions. Just being a good friend like this. This is this quality of compassionate yet kind of objective mindfulness with the emotions. Not getting involved with them yourself, not identifying with them yourself, and not going along with them. And over time, they'll change and they'll pass away. And you'll, in the process, develop more and more patience and more mindfulness. And then as they will pass away, as they always do, when they do, then you can return to your home object, the breath. And take more and more footsteps along the path of the Buddha. And grow in wisdom in this way as well, because the heart will learn about these emotions. So we develop wisdom in this way too. There are many other ways of dealing with hindrances, and including meditative techniques and so on like this. But in a short period of time, you can't learn a wide variety of things. It's difficult to utilize, put into practice, and so this is one set of instructions, one set of advice to practice with and try to master it to the extent that you can in this time period and experience the fruits of. May I ask, where are we at now for time? 4:30, great. 4:30, thank you. All right, and does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Okay, I have a question. How do you discern if a hindrance, right, is actually toxic or not? For example, we have a lot of Spanish people here, right? And so there's countercultural stuff that goes into play, right? Like I'm not gonna walk in a club where everybody can hug here, right? And normally that would be it. So I understand that under the 8 precepts I'm going to work it, right? But out in the world, back to the 5 precepts, let's say, what is that measurement of, like, for example, even with my children or with whoever, like how much it's like, oh, this is part of what, one of the hindrances is actually what I'm talking about right now, is that there's a hindrance that is telling me, like, look, it doesn't feel right. If there was a soul, let's say, at a soul level, this doesn't feel right. This is counter everything that I've been raised to.
Yes.
So it's very hard, I think, for some of us to transition over. I've been doing it for over 15 years now, but I still struggle with that. Ah, this is what I've been raised with. This is what my culture tells me. This is how you're nice. This is how you're polite. So how do you discern whether you're crossing over that toxic hindrance or non-toxic hindrance? I don't know. You see, along those lines, how do you discern that?
You mean while you're here in the temple on retreat?
Well, at the temple I can practice because it is pretty black and white. To the best of my ability, we're trying to make it black and white. But out there, the culture itself lends itself to having those hindrances. Because if you're over attached to any of it, you're going to suffer because of it. So, how do you maneuver yourself in, like, oh, this is too much, or this is not? When it's part of the culture to have those attachments.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's part of the culture to be romantic, let's say.
Yes.
Well, how much romanticism, it's okay, and then it becomes a hindrance.
Okay. Yes, right. What Okay, so this could be one of the things when we go off retreat, going back into worldly life. Well, how do we take what we've learned back into worldly life to inform our practice there? And maybe it's better to discuss that at the end of the retreat. Oftentimes there'll be a kind of discussion of that kind of thing. And so right now we focus on the present. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be a good question to remember for the end of the retreat. Yes.
So, from the practice, right, I was in a deep state in the beginning, but after I got out of it, I couldn't get back to that deep state again. So, is concentration like a battle that you have? That you can only be concentrated for such a certain amount of time before you lose focus entirely and you can't get back?
No, it's definitely not inevitable that you have to lose focus. Yeah, and so you as a meditator, you want to study the conditions under which concentration develops and the conditions under which it wanes. And it's quite, by most people's standards, it's quite fragile. Which is why we have all the different rules, like following the 8 precepts and the noble silence and not speaking and so on like this. Because even just a little bit of deviation from your meditation object, and you can be gone. And it can be quite a long time to get it back through a lot of work. So common lamentation, meditators. I had a good meditation. I let my guard down for a few minutes, and then it was such a long, hard, uphill slog to get it back. It's kind of like they were holding the golden egg, and they put it down, and then they were swept away by a tsunami. And could be years to get back to where that golden egg was again. Yeah. So that's why you want to be. So you want to be very focused and continuous. One of the key things for meditation, they say in real estate, there are three key things, right, in real estate, if you're in the real estate business. Right? Location, location, location. And there are three things that are key in developing mindfulness and meditation. And those are continuity, continuity, and continuity. so yes, yes.
So you change locations to re-get that focus? I want to get that focus again, but I can't. Like you said, if the golden egg is gone now.
So if you put the egg down,
Yeah.
if you lose your mindfulness, lose your concentration, the two are hand in hand. Concentration, one way of looking at concentration is that it's continuous mindfulness. One way of looking at it. And so if you let your mindfulness go and you slip, you want to try to get back on track with the mindfulness as soon as possible. Yeah. It's the metaphor, the spatial metaphor of putting the egg down and getting swept away somewhere else. Getting your way back to the golden egg is that path of mindfulness. So you want to reestablish the mindfulness as soon as possible. That's really, while you're here on retreat, that's really the key things. You've got your sila, the 8 precepts, and you've got the noble silence. So yes. If you're out in the world, then you might say, I need to go on retreat again. But while you're here on retreat, the mindfulness is really the key thing, since you have your sila in place already. Your precepts and so on.
I have a question. It's almost done. Okay, so this one maybe, I don't know, everyone has different beliefs on this. So I want to hear a belief from you, but you don't have to answer it directly. It's like to me. So when reincarnation, we rebirth, when we die, right, and we rebirth again, is our soul is the one that's like being traveled to a new body and a new restart? Like, is the soul what carries on the merit and everything? Or I don't know.
Okay, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's I don't know. Everyone has different beliefs, so I don't know how to. Yeah.
Which hindrance do you think this is?
Uncertainty.
Oh, sorry?
Uncertainty.
Right, there you go. And so, right. And one of the things about the doubt hindrance is that you don't want to, this is not, please don't take this as a criticism, this is a very normal thing to happen, that so you don't want to go in line with it. So, yeah. So to get back to your concentration, your deep state, you want to focus again on the breath. And let the questions and the thoughts dissipate and fade away.
I was just thinking, because like we are not our body, so like our body goes away, we're done, and our mind, not our mind either. We are awareness. So what is awareness, right? When I think of awareness, I think of soul. So that's where my curiosity kicks in. Like I'm curious about all that. So I want to know what that is, but like he said earlier that we don't know, but I still want to explore that curiosity.
Okay. We do have a class here on Saturday afternoons as well as Friday evenings every week. And so maybe one of those would be a good time to bring up a question like that. All right.
440.
440. Thank you, Sean. Well, I was wondering if we have this time, unless seeing the other hands go very quickly. Do we have any other hands?
Yeah. What is the best time to practice all this? Like regularly in the morning or at night? Sometimes it happens maybe practicing at night, and after an hour, I get like really awake. I'm not put my sleep.
Okay. This is another one. It's about, not really about the hindrances, and it sounds like it's more like about practice out in worldly life. Is that right? So you're not asking about why you're here on retreat. Well, this is too loud if getting distorted. Are you asking about why you're here on retreat? The best of the practice?
The meditation practice of the meditation.
After you leave retreat.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we can bring that up later as well. We talk about transitioning into worldly life again. Yeah. Yes.
Another great question. So this meditation, we're doing more about the mind and calmness of the mind. Now you're at a different center. Do you practice something else? And does every center have their own method of practicing meditation, or does all centers do the meditation of the mind?
Okay. So, all right. Okay, I think so. When we're here on retreat, we want to try to be here now. Very important, if you're going to get your deep state back, Justin. Yeah. And so, kind of like when I was doing the guided meditation yesterday, when we're meditating, we want to try to come into the body here in the present moment. So if we let the mind go out to other places or go back different times, then we're never going to catch hold of the breath that way. And we're never going to get concentrated. And it's important to recognize how special this opportunity is when we're on retreat. Probably many of you took days off from work to come here. And the special circumstances that we're in are going to be gone very soon. We're halfway through the retreat now. And it probably will be impossible to answer questions like, for sure, to come away with any certainty by the end of the retreat, like, is rebirth real? Or do I really have a consciousness that's different from the body? Or, what is the best meditation method? Or what is the best place to meditate? Or something like this. But if you really try, the thing you can walk away with at the end of this retreat is an experience of mindfulness, meditation, and concentration with mindfulness of breathing and the techniques we're doing here. But it requires real devotion, really putting your mind to it. Otherwise, you walk out again without really knowing. Well, what was it like to practice mindfulness of breathing for 5 days?
Question. I know you mentioned one of the ways to get over the hindrances is to be an objective onlooker. Is there any other way that you would recommend or suggest to kind of get over the hindrances when you are meditating?
Oh, okay, yeah. So you could. Well, for those of you who are already familiar with meditation techniques that are direct antidotes to particular hindrances, you could try practicing with some of those as well. So, for example, with regard to ill will, the loving kindness, as was mentioned earlier. With regard to lust, reflecting on the unbeautiful aspects of the body is an antidote. Those aren't the only ones, but those are some. And as long as you remember the idea of impermanence, that's another way of remembering that as you're with these various hindrances. Each of these meditation methods, of course, their own practice in their own right. Yeah. And so it takes some explanation. And so I thought going with this kind of a simpler framework is a way to address it in a short time span. Very common for a retreat like this. A 5-day retreat is not very long, so don't want to make things too complicated. You can also look at things like changing the postures. So if you're very sleepy, if you're very sleepy, you could try doing walking meditation, for example. If you're very restless, you're determined to remain sitting. no matter what. So the posture, you want to adopt a posture that's kind of the opposite of the feeling. Yeah. And if you're extremely restless, even when you go back to your room, you might even practice lying down and say, no matter what, I'm not going to get up for the next half hour, 45 minutes or hour, whatever it may be, no matter how stir crazy I feel. Yeah. I used to do this at times. Yeah. So changing postures, using meditation methods that are direct antidotes. Yeah. Some ideas. Yes.
You were talking about so other people's hindrances can impact you if you don't uphold your mind.
Oh, okay. Is that the question? That's the question.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes. Well, they can impact you. Yes, it's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is kind of the understanding that that how we react to our sensory experience comes from us. Right. Okay. So you can look at it in a couple of ways. Yeah. So So if you what you see somebody else doing, for example, based on seeing what somebody else does, then you may initiate a hindrance or a defilement, right? But it isn't necessarily the case. Yeah. So.
I have a good question.
Okay.
So you mentioned earlier about the sleeping and changing stances, right?
Yes.
So what popped to my mind immediately is like, if we're like tired or almost tired, is it possible to get into a deep state of meditation easily, or is it harder?
Oh, you want really, you wouldn't want a feeling that's actually sleepy. You want to find the right balance between kind of mental activity and calm. You want to be calm and you want to be calm but alert. Yeah. So if you're actually describing yourself as sleepy, then you're probably more sleepy than you ideally you should be. Yeah. So it doesn't mean you can't meditate though. So you have to see, okay, I'm sleepy, so how do I meditate in these circumstances so that I feel I'm being alert? Yeah. All right. Oh, was it awkward? Some people are saying, no, it wasn't awkward, right?
Yeah, I have a question.
There's something about silence, actually.
Nobody's asking, so I have to ask
Yeah,
something.
there's something about silence, though. It's
So it's,
actually points up an important aspect of the practice.
Yeah, I know a little bit about I've heard about these five hindrances. So boredom is, which one is boredom here? I can't meditate when I feel bored. I think it's same what dust nasty. You lose concentration when you're bored. You don't want to do anything. So which one is it? Is it what number is it?
It doesn't matter.
No? I thought this is a hindrance. Bored. Laziness is the same thing? I'm not sure.
So this is restlessness. Everybody jumping to answer.
That's number two.
The thing about silence, whether it's awkward or not, comes down to mindfulness. So, as we see from the tradition, that there are things that are pleasant, unpleasant, and neither pleasant nor unpleasant sensory experience and feelings as well. And neither pleasant nor unpleasant experience is unpleasant when it's conjoined with delusion, pleasant when it's conjoined with clear knowing. So someone who's mindful can watch grass grow and be in a very beautiful, wonderful place because they're being mindful. But if we lose our mindfulness, watching grass grow could be torture. And And it's because the mind, if we lose our mindfulness, delusion clouds the heart. Delusion is the condition for the arising of the various defilements, including restlessness, boredom, restlessness. And so what you need to do is get back on top of it with your mindfulness. You displace the delusion with mindfulness again, and the restlessness will just not appear anymore. The thing you don't want to do, though, is go online with it. Don't think, I should stop meditating. Then they really got you. It's one of your really bad influence friends who got you to do something. It's really bad for you. It's restlessness to get you to stop meditating. So you want to notice this. This is restlessness. This is a hindrance, and I don't want to go online with it. Yes.
So, going on to easing on boredom. So you're saying to just sit with the feeling and it will go away, right? Because if we just stop doing the meditation for the boredom, then boredom wins.
Right.
So sit with the feeling and so it goes away.
Sit with the feeling, that's right. There are two different ways of doing it. There's, when people say sit with it, generally the meaning can be one of two different things. Just sitting with it in the sense of being patient and enduring it, which actually does have benefit. And it will eventually go away. It's impossible for it to last forever. And another way of sitting with it is this, the way I was describing before, of trying to experience it mindfully. Experience the feeling of restlessness mindfully. Yeah. Okay, how about Victor raised his hand first, so go to him first. Yeah.
Talking about restlessness and boredom, meditation is an activity. That's what I think. It's an activity because you are concentrated, not requires effort. So if you are concentrated and you doing your effort, you couldn't be working at all. Work on not. You are actively doing something positive. That's what I think. Even though meditation indicates that there is no activity, I think there is controlling the mind is one of the most strong activities that there is. I would appreciate it if you correct me.
All right. Paul, I couldn't understand what you were saying. I think because of the distance and because of the mask, perhaps. But so maybe this gentleman go ahead and ask his question also. Yeah.
I'm just saying that you said that meditation is a form of activity, so it should suppress that boredom in a nutshell.
Did you want to go ahead with your question? Okay.
So while we're here at the temple, the only thing I can think of are conversation or sleep. But so the question is, do we want to be like practicing mindful breath for as long as we can? Like all the time if we can?
Okay. And so as we move through different postures, we actually want to change the focus of our mindfulness. And I can't recall if this has really been covered. I imagine Paul had covered at some point. But so, for example, for practicing walking meditation, we may focus on our breathing, but it really depends on us. If we're in a very stable environment where we don't really have to be cognizant of what's going on around us and so on like this, then we can try practicing mindfulness of breathing. So practicing walking meditation, pacing back and forth and so on like this, you can. But in many kinds of activities, when we're not sitting on the cushion, we want to be mindful of our bodily movements or mindful of our sensory experience, depending on what we need to really be paying attention to at the time to do what it is we're trying to do. Yeah. So yes, you're activating the same quality of mindfulness, just with regard to those kinds of qualities instead. Yeah. So we can pay attention to what we need to be doing at the time. Okay.
So in America, there is a trend now. There is always everywhere at the meditation center. But some of the centers I've seen, I've read that they teach meditation technique without precepts, without telling about precepts. But I know that we know that the precepts are very important to be successful in meditation. So what do you tell? Can I meditate without precepts? Is that what they're doing? Like in Google, they're doing that. In prison, police, they're training the police without telling precepts. So they're focusing the breathing. So tell me about that a bit.
Well, okay. So are you in doubt about whether or not your precepts are helping you right now on the retreat? Or if you should? Okay.
Definitely precepts that much. If I don't worry, I don't have to worry about the precepts. Can I just meditate and, take more? That's what I say.
Okay, right. So right here on the retreat, it's required for the meditators to follow the precepts, right? And so we'll just be doing that for the time that you're here. Okay. All right. So, yes. Discursive thought, so talking in the mind, is opposite to mindfulness, to clear awareness in the present moment. So when we're clearly mindful in the present moment, when the talking ceases in the mind, which is a really wonderful experience, really very pleasant experience. In a way that thinking definitely is not pleasant, no matter how wonderful the idea is. There's no joke, there's no limerick, there's no poetry as beautiful as a silent mind. And you can know things when you're clearly aware. Whereas thinking is not knowing. And logic, even the best logic, depends on premises and other things that could be faulty. And so while we're here now, we try to focus on the mindfulness to actually knowing something. And that's the path to being awake. That's the path to awakening. And so we close off the mouth door to stop the speech on the gross level. We assert our mindfulness to do this, develop our mindfulness with the breath, to gradually quiet the mind until the speaking ceases internally as well. And then you have something really wonderful that you can build on. And an experience that you'll know was true and was right. You'll know how you got there, because you actually did it. I imagine now maybe 5 o'clock already. Is it? Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess maybe we should ask Paul what to do. Now we've reached the end of the time. A couple Paul, cup. Yeah. Okay. Keep going. Okay. Keep going.
I was told by other people who meditate in the past, outside of the temple, that it's best to turn off the left side of your brain, the logical thinking. It's focused on the right side more, creative and spiritual stuff. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay. Well, so it's an interesting question. So thank you. That's interesting. But I think so. What we want to do is we want to turn on our mindfulness, and so we're trying to be mindful of our breathing. And so when we have ideas about whether or not we should be creative or logical or anything like this, what we do is we see those as things we don't need to get involved with right now. They're distractions from being mindful of our breathing. So one way we can deal with them is as they arise, we can watch them mindfully. Or if perhaps even if we're very fortunate, we can just notice that this is a distraction and I'm not interested in this right now, and let it go and come back to the breath. Trying to turn on the faculty of mindfulness and try to keep it going. Mindfulness is kind of like you push a button, this initiates mindfulness. But just for a moment, the nature of the mind, the personality of the mind, the unenlightened mind, is for the finger to fall off very quickly. And so we want to press that button, and we want to hold that button pressed as long as possible. Because then you become continuously aware of what's actually happening. You can see for the first time what reality is really like. Okay. I didn't hear what you said. Oh, sorry?
This elaborates on his.
So elaborates on his. So that's interesting. I'm trying to get him to de-elaborate. You're elaborating. Okay, this is an interesting process.
Was, do we think aloud?
I'm sorry?
Do we think aloud with our speech?
So,
Like as we're speaking, are we thinking aloud?
Sorry, but I think thinking too much hinders mindfulness, and we cannot get to it. And if we want to really meditate, we have to get to it. And if we think that we are not getting there for some distraction, then we go back to it as soon as possible. Many times the mind doesn't stop thinking too much because really, like you said, thinking too much clogs your mind. And what we want is to get to the meditation as I want this. So I am going to get to the task and I'm going to try to do it no matter what. Even if a bird crosses and my car wants to follow that bird, I am going to be mindful and get back to it as quick as possible. I think that is something that I learned here, even though I never learned about meditation in my life.
sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. That's great. Yeah. Okay. Well, the questions can go on forever if we want them to. Doom ourselves to the round of rebirths till infinite time. The graveyards have already swelled with our bones from past lives. This is our opportunity to meditate. And so good luck. We've got the instructions and the opportunity.
How